Wouldn't it be awkward if a small Brazilian sim developer were to produce a Formula 1 car that's better than anything that's been in the official Formula 1 games for the past decade? I think it would. And in this video, we're going to be checking out Reeza's Formula Ultimate Gen 2 for Automobilista 2, which was just added to the simulator in the most recent update. Let's get driving. If you enjoy our content and want to support the channel, make sure to use the Gamer Muscle Fanatec affiliate link located under the video when buying fancy pants sim racing equipment from the Fanatec store. Hello there guys, welcome back to the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone that's been subscribing and liking recently and following us on Twitch and all the other annoying YouTube gubbins. Thank you very much for that. Now, the Formula Ultimate Gen 2, which is not an F1 2022 car, because if it were, someone would have to pay a lot of licensing fees, and as we know, you can only license Formula 1 cars if you're going to put them in a cross-platform game where none of the cars drive like Formula 1 cars. Here we are though in the Formula Ultimate Gen 2. So what have I done with the setup here? We're going to go with the default setup because that's how I think most people are going to jump into it. I've done a couple of laps. This is a first impressions. I did do a couple of laps just to make sure everything was set up so this video doesn't make you want to smash your face in with a brick. The default setup is actually great. I did have to change the brake pressure. I reduced the brake pressure because the brakes were snagging a little bit. I will say the brakes do snag a little bit on this car, but reduce the brake pressure to, what have I put it on? 77 I think I put it on. It's 80 by default, and that helped. You could just be better on your brakes and not lock them up, but that's all I've really changed, to be honest. Now the AI is on 94% difficulty. The aggression is pretty high. I can't remember exact settings, but that's all great. Now we're also at Imola, which is great. I keep saying the word great. I don't know why I'm obsessed with that word today. It's great because that's where the real Formula 1 is going to be taking place. So it's a nice little test of a car that's not an F1 2022 car. Right, let's get on the track and let's drive. So first things first, what's really nice with this car is compared to other Formula cars in Automobilista 2, it's a lot more. We were rinsing the AI on the start there. Whoa, and they're out having none of it. And a flat spotted a wheel. I can feel that through the force from back. This car is way better than the other Formula cars that have been in Automobilista 2. Specifically, I always found the Formula cars in AMS2 felt a little bit wonky, a little bit inconsistent. What you notice as soon as you jump into this car is that it actually feels a lot more rounded and doesn't feel like it's got huge physics holes in it. In various conditions. So if you're going quickly, it drives as you would expect a high downforce car to drive. If you're going slowly, it drives as you would expect a high downforce car to drive slowly with monster tyres. It doesn't really do stuff that completely surprises you as a sort of more experienced person that's wasted their life playing too many driving simulators. As you can see there when we're exiting the chicane, this car has really quite forgiving tyres on it. You do have to catch it. You'd have to be quick to catch it, or have nice force feedback to help you catch it. But it does allow you quite a lot of controllable slip, which makes it really fun to drive and actually makes it much more in line with other driving simulators like R-Factor 2, Assetto Corsa, Race Room, and I think if you're a fan of those other driving simulators, you will actually probably jump into this and find it quite enjoyable and much more intuitive to drive compared, as I say, to the previous Formula 1 cars that have been in Automobilista 2. Now what's nice is, because of the slip that this has got, that's it's not like you've got infinite controllable slip, but because of the slip that you do have there, it lures you into wanting to drive harder, and personally I find that really quite satisfying. Like a lot of iRacing cars, for example, especially Formula cars and iRacing, I think unrealistically and unfairly punish you for trying to push. So it kind of, you have to dial things down. You can't go in at full attack and then bring things down. You have to dial things down and work yourself up to pace in iRacing, which I find a lot less enjoyable for my driving method of attack like a lunatic and then overdrive and then dial things down. I like to overdrive first and then bring things down because I find that a faster way to learn and just a more fun way to learn. Sideways is always better, as I'm sure you all know. Now, from watching the real Formula 1, and bear in mind this is not an F1 2022 car, obviously, from the real Formula 1 and the videos, which is the worst way to judge a car's physics, but from the videos we've watched of and the races we've seen of the real Formula 1, I will say it does seem to me like the real F1 tyres are probably a lot more peaky than these tyres and probably a bit more less forgiving than these tyres are. That could be also down to the grass overtake. That could also be down to the setups that they happen to be running on those cars, and maybe if you're running a more competitive setup on this car as opposed to the default, maybe this does get more peaky as well. But this definitely seems to me to be more forgiving than the real Formula car might be, especially with this default setup. But personally, I don't care. I think most people that are playing this are playing these as a... There's a gap, I'm going for it. Playing these as a, you're playing it as a game. You want it to be realistic. Realistic's probably generally better. It's a sim as well. But ultimately, it's never going to be identical to reality. So, is the balance there, is what I'm saying. But I do think this is less peaky probably than the real thing. We'll have to see with other setups. Oh. So satisfying though when you actually start with these types of ground spaceships. So satisfying as you start getting quicker and trying to get that little bit more out of it. And really nicely with AMS2, its force feedback gives you a really good sense of connection to the vehicle, especially I'm using the in-game force feedback now. I feel like you don't need to use the R factor file that I was using before. You can use the in-game force feedback. With that, you just feel connected to the car, especially mid-corner. I think braking feel could be a little bit better. I mean, I'm using a Fanatec Podium DD. I don't use much dampening on it. I can really feel what's coming out of the sim. Braking could be a bit better, but mid-corner load and general self-correction for the rear coming out, self-aligning force and everything, that's all really nicely done. Way better force feedback than default iRacing, combined with the fact that this actually has a lot more controllable slip than most Formula cars in iRacing. You feel nice and connected with the force feedback. That, as I say, that combination with the physics means that you really get lured into wanting to push harder and harder and get more out of the car, as opposed to feeling like you have to sort of sandbag the car. It'd be really nice for me to nail that final corner rather than meandering through it like a out of control kayak down some rapids. I definitely, you can tell here from my driving that I'm at least, I would say it feels like I'm about 5 seconds off pace, 4.5, 5 seconds off what would be a good pace on this track. So we're nowhere near the limit, and due to the tightness of these types of vehicles, you're either absolutely on it or you're miles off it. And that's really kind of the allure, I think, of these types of super tight Formula cars. Oh. So we definitely need to put the AI on a harder setting, because within 5 laps we've absolutely rinsed them. Did start in the middle of the field though. Maybe if I'd started at the back it'd be more of a challenge. Now another thing I have to say that really stands out with this, whoa, is the sound of the car is way better. Let's restart. The sound of the car is way better. Do you know what? I'm going to put the AI on a harder setting. The sound's way better than other AMS2 cars, and I think at the moment in AMS2, I think sound's one of the things that definitely needs to improve in the simulator, because there's a lot of content in there where the sound is just, it's a bit overdone and it's really quite grating. There we go. It was on 90. Let's turn him up. Let's whack him up. There we go. But this car is not grating at all. It's actually quite pleasant, which is weird because the this real car in real life, the onboard is not the most dynamic of sounding of vehicles. You know, it's going to be more like vibrations and stuff as opposed to, oh, that's a beautiful engine note coming from the car. So it's bizarre that this car ends up actually sounding pretty decent in here, or at worst comfortable to listen to. You could do races without it feeling like your ears are hurting. I'm not that picky with. There we go, that's better. I'm not that picky with driving sim audio. It's more like I want to be able to hear what the RPMs are, and I want to be able to hear what's useful to actually drive from, when to shift, road texture stuff, you know, rather than cinematic experience for me personally. Oh, there we go. AI is way better now. Should have been running on that setting before. It's worth noting there, at the start of the lap there, I went on the grass. Grass is the most important thing in driving simulators, as you guys all know. This car behaves great on the grass, as it should do. I mean, like, the grass is slippy. You don't want to put your wheels on the grass. If you brake on the grass, you're going to have trouble. Huge lock up there. But it doesn't just go stupid on the grass and suck you off the track and absolutely ruin you. And if you watched... Whoa, hello. I should have backed out that more. If you watch the previous F1 races, I've absolutely flat spotted my tyres. You know, we had cars going on the grass, powering off the grass sideways at low speed, high speed, doing loads of stuff on the grass. And, like, yeah, it's slippy. It's not ideal. But you can drive on grass with cars like this, especially... It depends on the situation, but a lot of driving sims, a lot of driving sims turn the grass into ice or snow as opposed to grass. Like wet grass. A lot of driving sims, the grass is like it's always wet grass. It's probably a good way of putting it. This is great when, you know, you don't want to be on the grass, but if you have to avoid an accident, or you do something stupid, you're golden. Look at the AI's pushing on us. I have to say, I'm quite impressed with the AI in AMS2 recently. Sometimes at the start of a race, you can have the AI can sort of get a bit stuck, and you'll have to restart the race. So it's not perfect. You do have those sort of weirdo death AI situations, but on balance, it's not the worst AI. And they've got enough pace for, I think, most sim races to have a good challenge with them. And cars like this, fast Formula cars, tend to be something that causes a lot of problems with AI. The corners are causing a lot of problems for my driving here, and bloody hell, I'm making a right mess of this. Oh. No, I did get stuck in a bit of a lock there. Look at the helicopters drunk, meandering around. Well, I don't get DRS yet. We do have DRS in all the... well, I don't know all the electrical systems, but a bunch of electrical systems on this car. So if you're into twiddling around with that kind of stuff, then that might be fun. I'm not particularly interested in that. I just like to drive. Well, look at the AIs having a right fight amongst each other. Oh. I love this track. So good. Such a good flow to it. Really a bit mental with cars like this, but who cares? Spaceship on the ground driving. It's worth also mentioning, AMS2 runs so well. Like, I've got the graphics. I'm using 3 55-inch OLEDs at 2560 res on each one. So it's like 7000 by 2560 res, I think, total. G-Sync, 120 hertz. Absolutely flawless frame timing in AMS2, and it really does stand out. It's like if you use a VR headset, and you get really good presence when it's completely flawless. Like, frames are absolutely delivered on time, no delay. It's absolutely incredible. And for AMS2 to do that whilst also looking probably one of the top sims visually, but also runs well, is really, really nice. DRS open. No, gosh. Okay, so if you try and do a quick dive, switch of position with the DRS open, you die. DRS works. It's a good test of DRS. I'm traded to be the next Lance Stroll. Right, here we go. Start that again. Final one, guys. So yes, if you try and move the car too quickly with the DRS open, you will have some trouble. Right, we're going to beat the AI here, I don't care. Oh, cold tyres and a dive bomb. Accidentally knocking the assist button there. Right. Yeah, so don't load this up because this is one of those cars where you'll be like, oh, I'll just load it up, I'll give it a try. Day gone. It's weird because and this is I think this is the first Formula car in AMS2 where I've felt a bit like that. I'd say the original Assetto Corsa is definitely like that with most of the cars for me. Race Room is like that with a bunch of its cars. Some cars in R-Factor too. But this is the first Formula car in AMS2 where I've loaded it up and I'm like, yep, I know I can do a faster lap. I know I can do better than that. And I think that's the key with it. When a car's done well in a sim, you make mistakes, you do dumb stuff, you look like an idiot, you're reminded that you can't drive, but you're reminded that it's your fault and not the sim's fault, and this feels largely like it's your fault, not the sim's fault when you crash or leave the DRS open and do a crazy move that kills you. But absolutely flying here. Just get through there. If you've got a VR headset though, this will blow your nipples off. Runs great in VR, this game, and you'll be able to look past the halo. Though the halo's not particularly obnoxious on this car. It's as far as sandal toe holds go, it's one of the thinner ones. So you don't, even with it on now, it's actually not really bothering me on my tiny budget monitors. Normally I'll be straight turning it off. I think you could turn it off in the settings. I'd have to look into that. But I don't think I'd even have to on this. It's not bothering me too much. It's no worse than the aerial that you get on a lot of F3 cars in various sims. Look at that. So this track is all about... It's a really good track actually to test the sort of tyre model, specifically on the limit, because you've got the Aqua Minerale corners. You're really loading the tyres, and then you are having to lean on the tyres to get a good time out of it and just get the bite out of it. And you'll find with some sims, those corners, it's like you're sort of hostage. Once you've gone into it, you're total hostage to what you did on the entry into the corner. Whereas with this, you can very much... Oh shit! That corner's doing me in. I had a lot more... Closed in on them a lot faster than I was thinking. Yeah, on this you can very much adjust the car through the corners. Maybe a little bit more than you might be able to in reality, but it's nice and fun, so who cares? I'd also say, to be honest, this actually feels a lot better than most of the Formula cars do in iRacing. Again, most of the Formula cars in iRacing, because they just tend to binge you when you get to the limit, whereas this is encouraging you to push. Then you get into the whole debate, don't you?
It's too easy, so it's unrealistic. Hard is realistic. Real race drivers are heroes.
You know how it is. Oh, this is fun. That's all that matters. Come on, gentle on the throttle. Tone things down. Come on, Bolgit. I still haven't felt like I've hooked a lap up at all here, which is great because I know that because of the force feedback. I can feel through the force feedback that I've got. I'm not driving through the corner smoothly. I mean, visually, obviously, you can see I'm butchering the apexes and driving like a tit, but ignoring the raw apexing, I can feel through the force feedback that I'm not carrying the correct speed through the corners or that the tyres have more to give. There we go. Really it gets more satisfying the smoother you are. That's the other thing. It's like you overdrive, which is quite fun in its own sense, but it's really satisfying when you feel that you're actually you're chipping away like a sculpture. You're chipping away at that flow, and then you get into the nice... You then get into the state where you're matched with the car, driving the car as it wants to be drived and as you want to drive it and getting the most out of it, working in unison. This is getting a bit arty-farty. Oi, 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 oi. I do think I seem to be snagging the rears a little bit, so I don't know if there's maybe a little bit of a brake bias tweak. Though I'm enjoying the turning from the braking. Bit of DRS there. Let's not make that mistake we made before. Robert Kubica overtake. Have it. And I'll cut his nose off. Total send. The marshals would like to have a word with you after the race. No, mate. Gone. Sendy McSendison there. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this runs hosted sessions. Really nice thing with MS2, you can just host your own sessions. You can host sessions with AI and then jump in with your friends. So even if you've only got like one friend because you're a sim racer, you can I pretend you've got more friends with AI. Invite your other sim racer friend in, or a couple of people, and still have a full field race. But I think Reeves have done a fantastic job on this. Absolutely fantastic. And as I say, this is infinitely better than any car, every single any car that's in the official Codemasters games. You know? And I understand there's reasons why they've, you know, the F1 game, the official F1 games are as much role-playing titles as they are full-on, you know, it's not really a racing sim. There's aspects of it that are realistic, it's driving, but there's as much role-playing Formula 1 as they are racing. But, you know, this is also infinitely better than any Formula car that's in GT7, for example, or GT Sport, just way more depth. One thing that's actually quite interesting with the physics, you do really notice as well, like the variation in the tyres from if you've been driving too aggressively and then the tyres start overheating, how that affects the grip and the degree to which that affects the grip. And it's not like binary. It's not like, oh, you get stuck. In iRacing, the tyres tend to get a bit stuck when you overheat them. But in this, the grip falls off, but not stupidly. It's just in a nice variable way. And I've not tested this in the wet. We'll have to do a wet race with this. But that probably means that when you do drive this in the wet, it'll actually be reasonable. If you drive it in the damp, you'll have a bit of range there still, rather than the physics effectively turning off, which is a common problem with a lot of sims. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to say. I think you're gonna really love this car if you like Formula cars. AMS2 fans, MS2 fans, they've all got mental issues, so they'll like it whatever. This could have just been a sledge, and the AMS2 fans would be like, best car ever. But as a more cynical and neutral AMS2 player and general sim racer, I think vast majority of people would really enjoy driving this. So you know, definitely worth jumping on if you haven't yet. Look at the pit, look at all these details, look at all those lollipops. Where's my lollipop? Oh, I feel like I'm going to the dentist here. I did a lollipop. Oh, there we go. Look, nice clear sign. There's my lollipop. Look at that, nice animated pit crew. Fantastic. Brakes on. No, I like to do the was it Schumacher who ran over the his pit bull guy? Ponk. That's my style. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That's pretty much it for this one. What I would say is, you know, if you enjoy this, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments what you think of this car. If you think this genuinely really stands out compared to other AMS2 cars, I really do think this stands out. But until the next one, thanks for watching this. Happy tea drinking. And goodbye.